Cool. Drupal Superstars versus Players is basically going into depth about what you're looking for in your Drupal developer, themer, consultants, etc. So, who am I? As you can probably guess from the accent, I'm from London in England. I'm a Drupal developer, consultant and themer. Been working with Drupal since 2009, that's on the tail end of Drupal 4.6. I'm Joint Director and Technical Director of Online Perspectives Limited. We offer white label Drupal development to bigger agencies. I do enjoy a nice beer or two. I'm active in the Drupal community. I contribute to D8 in patches, working on Drupal contrib modules, and also currently working on a Drupal distribution called Cream, which is basically going to supersede COD, because as a Drupal London organiser, we had a lot of issues building the website, and we had to modify a lot of the code to get what we wanted. So we're going to build a platform that works for all camps out of the box and no faffing around. So what will you learn? You will learn the difference between a Drupal Superstar and a Drupal player. What to look for in your code. This is not putting DB queries in template.php, for example. Why do we have coding standards? What type of job roles exist for Drupal? How to maximize productivity for everyone. So, as we should all know, Drupal is written on PHP. Here's a basic example from the node.module file. But what's coming down to Drupal is, well, Drupal is just PHP. So is WordPress and Joomla. So why can't I just treat Drupal just like PHP? Why can't I just go into the code, hack node module to do what I want? Why can't I do that? Well, we're going to go on to explain what a player is, a Drupal player, and how they work. So in Drupal, we want to make it so we can migrate a site very easily and quickly. We don't want to have to visit PHP written in blocks, because that's a security exploit. We don't want to have to look at it in views, because we want to be able to modify it in an easier approach, which is why we've got the hooks to override the various functions. So firstly, with a Drupal player, what they tend to do, so basically breaking down Drupal player is someone who claims to know Drupal. They think it's PHP, they think, oh, it's PHP, I can go and I can modify what I want, bam. Or they've done a bit of research, they've seen that you've got blocks and nodes and views, and they decide, let's just write the whole site in PHP and whack it into this block. Now that's obviously going to cause a lot of issues in terms of updating it for the client as well as the developer. And that's tend to be what a Drupal player will do. There's also instances where they don't understand that Drupal is a CMS, but it's also a framework. They don't understand that I've got my site, I've got multiple pages, let's just create all the code and put it into the TPL files so the client cannot edit it in Drupal. I just want to get it out the door, get it done. I don't care what the client thinks, I want to get paid. They've never heard of panels or display suite. These are to make our lives easier, which is why we've got a Drupal site builder as one of the job roles. They like to whack views, embed views into no TPL files, because they don't understand that you can create it in blocks or panes. And they love to whack the jQuery library as the script src straight into html.tpl.php, also not realizing that that's going to break Drupal's back end because Drupal relies on a certain version of jQuery to work correctly. These are some of the things you should look at when looking at code. They like to put some MySQL queries into some TPL files, blocks, nodes, and views. In Drupal, all your database queries should be inside a module. That way we're splitting the complicated code from the front-end guys, and also we are making it easier to update your websites by not having to modify the TPL files because you're just doing it straight in your module. So as a developer, if you've done it that way, then you should feel bad about your code. I, for one, as a developer, I take pride in my code, and I'm pretty sure 99% of the Drupal community do as well. So here's an example of SQL in template.php. I'm actually going to tell you this was on toyota.co.uk, so when I came on board, I just took it straight out. So you got this inside the template.php, and what we're doing is we're running a lot of queries to do some joins to output the addresses. The developers didn't understand what views did, so they created this, and within an hour of me being on the project, this was taken out and put straight into views. So yeah, this is something you don't want to put in your template.php or any of your themes. So what is a superstar? And what do you need from your superstars? So a superstar understands that when you've got a big project, you want to be able to manage how the code's written. So you've created your functionality, you've created a nice little blog, hunky-dory. The client then goes, actually, I don't want a blog, I want a forum. So you create your forum, and they're going, actually, I want a blog. So what do? You can't, if you're not using version control, you can't revert back to it. You've lost it. So version control is very, very important in any development aspect. The amount of times that clients do that is, you could be a millionaire if you gave them £1 every time and said that. So that's one of the main aspects. And then you got to look into your various superstar styles. So firstly, we've got a superstar themer. Now, what does a superstar themer need to know when you're looking for them or you're wanting to increase your skill set in Drupal? They know what template files exist for your theme. So they know node TPL, node --, content type TPL.php, etc. They know that Drupal uses jQuery as the library for its JavaScript, and you need to know that you can use Drupal JavaScript behaviors to hook into that, which then allows you to access various parts of the Drupal variables via JavaScript. You know that template.php is there for your pre-processed hooks and any theme alterations that you want to make to Drupal in general. You know, Sass less or CSS. This is really for a productivity approach. Before I approached working on Sass, I was doing CSS and it was taking days upon days to do stuff. I then moved to Sass and we were knocking sites out in days, not weeks. So it's really helpful. And also with Sass and less, you can create your variables so you can modify bulks of code in seconds by just changing the one variable. So now we're going to move on to Superstar Developer. So they know the Drupal hooks. They are regularly on api.drupal.org and they are looking at what the hooks do. And then when it comes down to modifying contrib, they are looking at the API drupalcontrib.org, which shows all the really cool functions and hooks that are being used in these custom contrib modules. They know the database, the next best thing, is how Drupal 7 talks to the database using PDO statements. So they got the DB select, your DB query, your DB merge. They know that JavaScript and Drupal needs to be added in a way that when you turn performance on, it's all compiled into one JavaScript file. So that's what Drupal.js does. And what you can also do with that, you can set it in different positions within the HTML file. So you could have your view cycle, for instance. You want it to be above the, I don't know, views. If you use jcarousel JavaScript, for instance, in the Drupal to JS, you can modify that to do that in a very simple approach. And you've got your .include files, which are basically to include various additional code for Drupal files. Your .info file is where you tell Drupal what you're building, what you're making, what your module does. In order for a module in Drupal, you need a .info and a .module file, which is that. So your .module file is where most of your custom code goes. You can then create additional include files to be placed into the .module. Your pre-process hooks, these are basically doing what you've got in template.php, but more for a modular approach in terms of you're modifying the complexity of the code, how your database codes, how your database lookups are running. Your DB query, various DB queries like DB select, as I said, DB merge. These are really vital in terms of talking to Drupal. You don't use MySQL bog standard functions to do it. It's in place because it's an extra barrier of security, and you can run a lot more. It's a lot more powerful than the standard MySQL approach. Drupal CSS is basically the same as JS, but it's for style sheets, and you can also control the flexibility of where it positions in the stack of CSS. So now we've explained what a Superstar theme and Superstar developer should be. We're going to explain what a Superstar architect. So a Superstar architect, you may wonder, is they've been a developer, they've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, now they want to expand their knowledge and help out others. So when they're going to a meeting, they'll know which modules the client will want. So the client goes, I want Facebook. Well, they'll know that you can build it with panels and context, etc. So they understand what modules will be needed and how to approach it, especially with the entities. They want to make the client streams become a reality. So the client goes, yes, I want Facebook. And you go, yes, we can make that happen, but it's going to be such and such to do. And they understand it's not a 2-second fix. They understand how to integrate the contrib modules that exist on D.O with custom modules. So they understand that if the client wants to modify how the voting API works, then they can do that with a custom module. So that's the basics of a Superstar architect. And now we move on to the Superstar site builder. Superstar site builder, they know views, they know context, display suite panels, organic groups, rules, features. So features is an interesting one, but the others are really ones that you should know how they work and how to achieve what the design and what the client wants really easily. With features though, features is more for deployment, updating new functionality, and there's a few issues in features when you're trying to modify various fields. So if you've created a content type already and the client goes, yes, but I'd like this field here. So you've got to create a new field. If you just do that in features, sometimes it can corrupt the database and cause issues. So another approach would just be to create it in the .install file of Drupal. So that's really more of a developer's approach. So we're going to move on to find out, where do you find your Drupal Superstar? in this room, issue queues on D.O, word of mouth, Drupal IRC, regularly on Drupal support, Drupal UK and Drupal contribute. So if you've got any questions, just pop onto Drupal support and pretty much anyone there will answer your question for you. Pub or social events. So tonight you might be enjoying a beer and then you'll be talking about, oh, I had this on a project, how did you achieve it? You're like, oh, well, you know, it was hard, but we made this custom module, we hooked into this entity, and we've put it on D.O actually. You can go have a look at it, and then you know that helps each other. And that's what the Drupal community is about. We're helping each other, making our projects easier for each other. And one very different thing about the Drupal community to any other community per se is, yes, we love Drupal and we're really passionate about it, but we will give up our time to work on Drupal outside of work. So a saying I've got is Drupal isn't a job, it's a passion. You're passionate about what you're doing because you're making it better for everyone. And regularly on Twitter you'll find a lot of hashtag Drupal is always a good one to follow. So go get them. Right. Now, moving on to something completely different. Oh. It's a bit of Monty Python, as I'm English. Rescue projects. Now, I'm sure who here has had to work on a rescue project where the client's gone, oh yes, this developer can't finish it because they doesn't know what they're doing, and you've had to take the slack. Anyone? Okay. So rescue projects tend to be, as I say, the developer's done it one way, it's not going to work, you don't understand how it's going to work, and it's going to be a lot more money. So there's normally two approaches. You've got the red and the blue pill. So the red choice, you're going to start the project from scratch because it's going to be a nightmare to understand how all the classes are working, how all the functions are working, what view's doing what, you know, where's this TPL file, why has it been hard-coded, views, embed view, etc. Exactly. What the fuck's going on? And then you've got the blue choice. You continue on for days and nights, weeks on months. The bill gets bigger and bigger, but you get richer and richer. I'll put euros up because we're in Slovenia, not UK, but yeah. So now, any questions about anything to do with this? Awesome. It's the first time we've never had any questions. Oh, got one.
How many Drupal architects do you know, basically? I've never heard about this role, and I have no idea what these people should do, basically.
So basically, as I said, I know 6 or 7 really good architects. One is Marcus Deglos, or Manaf on D.O. He's recently finished a big project for Ericsson, you know, the big mobile phone company. And he kind of said what a architect should be. An architect is more client facing, so they'll go into the meeting, the client will go, yes, I want this, I want that, and I want it in next week type thing. You're like, the architect to understand, well, no, it's not going to be a week to do Facebook. It's a longer process. They understand what the contrib modules can be used. So when they're briefing the development guys, they can go, okay, so the client wants this. Here are the modules I'm recommending you use. I recommend you build it in this approach. So an example is when I worked on Toyota, we took the panels approach. So I said, okay, the client wants to be able to modify these sections here. We want them to be able to only modify these bits here, and we can touch this. So we use panels, and that went straight into the development brief, and we worked on it and got it to work on panels. So really, they're leading up the development architecture of how the site is going to work and how it's going to function for the end client as well as the developers. So the developers don't just put display suite on because it's not been architected, it's not been spec'd out. So that's really what they do.
so but basically the best background for this role is actually Drupal developer.
Yeah, because I understand that they've been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Any others? Awesome. If you follow me on Twitter at @Burrows, any questions you can just tweet me and I'll answer. Thank you.